What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, and the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, what's happening with the data affecting the markets, what Jerome Powell said for today, and what you should be watching for going into tomorrow. But before I break things up, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner. Take nothing I say as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. Now, the offer ends in just 12 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So, looking at SPY, this thing was down about 0.88% for the day overall, but we had a very, very interesting amount of volatility to start us off. So, what happened for today? Why on earth was the market moving this way? I was talking about how we had some bullish signals in the very beginning, and I was saying that we could see some kind of pump just initially, or at least when Powell spoke, but I made no promises that it was going to last forever. And what happened was we did get these pumps. We actually saw SPY go up to 433. It was quite green for some time when Jerome Powell was speaking. And these ended up just being liquidity grabs. These were just filled breakouts, and SPY ended up getting this rejection before it began to chop. Then we saw a very aggressive sell-off during the final 2 hours of the day. I would say maybe the final 1.5 hours. And this happened as a result of some things that the market interpreted from Jerome Powell and also because of other factors. But I'm going to break down Powell and these things in just a couple of minutes. I first want to talk about something else. So when it comes to economic data, I just wanted to mention that for Friday, we had Harker, or we were going to have, Harker and Mester giving some speeches, and we're going to have some oil data coming out later on, but there's nothing too crazy for Friday. But for today, we had Jerome Powell giving his speech, and this had a very big effect on the markets. Now, what did Jerome Powell say? In the very beginning, like I said before, the guy pumps the markets because he said that there was progress being made on inflation, and the Fed is going to be continuing to monitor the situation, but they could end up temporarily skipping another rate hike so long as we get some decent data, as long as there's like some contractions and inflation is just continuing to lower. But then Powell, as time went on, he ended up just kind of like contradicting himself and saying things about how inflation, it still is too high at the same time, and lower economic growth is likely needed to bring it down. He also mentioned that the Fed may have to continue to remain restrictive for longer than expected. A lot of the same things, and that even if they were to pause, do not get your hypes or hopes just up just yet because of the fact that the Fed will have to just monitor the situation and see if anything changes first. And they could end up just continuing to raise rates more if we keep on getting some very low unemployment numbers, if we keep on getting some, signals out there showing some strength in the economy, such as retail sales going up, consumer spending increasing, or other things such as very, very strong looking labor numbers. So we're going to be watching to see if there's any contractions in those sectors and to see what the Fed has to do. He did say a pause is possible, but it may not be an official pause if data keeps on coming out too strong for the economy and more rate hikes are still on the table. All right, so that's why the market ended up reacting the way it did. Now, what's happening is, let me just close this ad. Basically, the fear and greed index is becoming more fearful. We're starting to see more and more sellers stepping in. Market momentum is quite neutral, but the stock price strength report is becoming more fearful. And we're seeing the same thing just making up the put and call options chains, the overall market volatility. I would say this is more fearful than neutral, and other factors like that. So the market is becoming more fearful. We're seeing more and more weakness as time goes on. When it comes to earnings coming out for tomorrow, we just have like American Express, just a couple of others, some small banks here and there, but nothing too crazy. It's going to be kind of like a minor day for earnings, and there's not too much data coming out. But one of the biggest highlights of the day would be the reaction from Tesla. We saw this thing basically sink very hard today because of their missed EPS and revenue reports, their relatively weak earnings, their margins that are being affected, and the gross margins that are just becoming tighter. Not to mention the fact that Musk talked about them potentially putting a pause on the Mexico Gigafactory production and their development of the new Gigafactory. And then other things like that. I mean, Musk was very uncertain about many of the questions he was asked, many different factors and pieces of news. And we're just going to be watching to see how this ends up developing. But when it comes to the market, when it comes to Tesla, I wanted to call out some very important things. So once again, with Powell, we kind of pumped a little bit. We were calling out a move like this, but I told you don't expect it to last because anything can happen with Powell. And then the market just made two little tops here. This is where they grabbed liquidity and they pumped it initially just to get a lot of these buyers to step in because this is where they started selling, and we saw the shorts pile in, and they took advantage of this opportunity for the second half of the day, especially during the final hour when we saw a very aggressive sell-off on SPY. We saw SPY reach 425. All right, so what does this mean for the future? What do I think is going to happen? It really is simple because when you look at the daily, we have a bearish engulfing candle. This looks very, very bearish, very, very weak. And we have the 200 EMA at 423.6. So I believe we're going to be testing that very soon. We're about to get a bearish cross in the PPO. Basically, SPY looks bearish. So I'm going to switch over to TradingView to show you some levels. We broke below our key support, which is where this green trend line happens to be. So we're going to be watching SPY maybe kind of rebound in the morning, then just start continuing to sell off. We're going to be watching 425 as key support. We have some strong support here, but if we lose this, it's going to come all the way down to 423.6. That's where we have a lot of chop. If we lose this, the next level is going to be 422, which is where we have some minor support, but it's not that strong. And if we lose this, we have some very strong support at this 420 area. So I'm going to make this a little thicker so you guys could see that we have strong support at 420. This is where a lot of buyers like to step in, and they've stepped in many, many times in the past. But if anything, I believe at the very least we're going to see SPY test 423 by tomorrow, possibly. I am leaning in that direction, so be prepared and we will see if buyers step in or not. I am leaning in the direction of more downside. The QQQ is looking a bit more bearish because we did break below 360. And the next level to be watching for now, if we do continue to sell off, is going to be this 358 support. This is where we have this historical support right here. So it's not really super, super strong support, but we could see this attempt to try to hold the triple Q up a little bit. And if we end up losing our support over there, then there could be a move all the way down towards 355. This is going to be the next level. Then we have 353.5 and other levels down there. So look for a little pump in the morning, then another sell off towards 358. And then below that, we have this potentially coming down towards 355. I do anticipate more downside as we have a head and shoulders like structure, and the technicals are just still looking more bearish. So I do believe the QQQ is going to sell off more. And I think that we either pop and then drop, or we just continue to sell off. Tesla still looks bearish. We just continue to sell off very aggressively today as we saw more and more shorts pile in. Here's some levels to watch for. Basically, when you look at either the hourly, the daily, or even the 4-hour chart, you can see that Tesla has key supports at 212 and also at 215. Those are some levels to be watching for on Tesla. If we lose them, then 210 is going to be on the table. But for now, I just want to call out that Tesla's looking very weak. It sold off very aggressively today, got a very weak close, and it's just looking weaker and weaker as the days go on. But before I talk about these levels, let me just show you one more thing on Tesla. I'm going to go back to Webull and show you guys the daily charts because I want to show you guys the MACD. It's looking very, very bearish, very weak. The reason I'm calling this out is because we have this gap on the daily down here, and this gap could take Tesla all the way down towards this 215 area, and then we have support at 212. So there's going to be some supports to watch for 215, 212, and then all the way down to about 210 below that. So those are some important levels. Tesla does look more bearish in my opinion. Anyways, for resistance, watch 220. If we break 220, 222.5 is going to be a level to watch for. 225, then 227 to 228 above that. Those are some resistance levels. For support, watch 217. If we lose that, I see Tesla coming all the way down towards 215. If we lose 215, watch 212. If 212 fails us, it's going to come down towards 210 and even below that. So it is looking very weak right now, but I'm going to be watching 212 specifically for strong support. I believe it's going to be visiting that level very, very soon. So how could this play out? I mean, we could see Tesla kind of rebound a little bit like this. I don't know if it's going to be that much of a rebound. Then it might just continue to fail as time goes on tomorrow, then start selling off again and make its way down towards this 212 area. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tesla sell off more. It's looking more bearish, and we could see more downside. So I am leaning a bit more in that direction. Make sure you watch these levels very carefully. When it comes to, I think I just talked about the QQQ, NVIDIA stock, this is also looking quite bearish. So when you look at NVIDIA, basically NVIDIA on the 1 hour time frame it basically hit its support very close to where this trend line is. I could adjust this just a little bit, but it's still looking very weak. That's the bottom line. Going to be looking for a back test towards this 420 area. If we get above it, I could see it getting very close to 423, and it could reject very close to 423 to 425 and continue to sell off with the market. So it could do something like this before it just continues to drop. I wouldn't be surprised if it just continues to make its way down towards if it does lose like 416, I could see it coming down towards 412. And if it loses that, I think 409 to 410 is going to be coming because that's where we have historical support. So we're going to be watching that area very carefully on NVIDIA because of the fact that this historical support right here could end up playing out. We also happen to have this gap. There happens to be a gap right here around 408. So I do believe it's going to test 409. That's where we have some nice support for it to try to attempt to bounce. But if it loses 409, there's technically a gap to be filled around 407. So somewhere between 409 and 407 is where I think NVIDIA would bounce actually. And I don't know exactly if it's going to just hold either one of those specifically, but I believe somewhere in that range is where we could see a lot of buyers step in. But for now, it's looking very, very weak, and I could see more downside. So we're going to be watching these levels very carefully. Last but not least, on TradingView, I'm going to be talking about Apple stock. Apple's also looking a little bit more bearish. If you look at Apple, we have a head and shoulders like structure, and we ended up closing below 176.5. So we've been on a very slow downtrend, but I believe it's going to continue as time goes on. So looking at Apple, I believe it may try to rebound towards 176, maybe 176.5. I'm not counting on that to be too big. And a rejection could come, and we might see Apple just sink towards 174, just like this. And if it depends on if it holds 174 or not, it could just chop around a bit. But if it breaks 174, I see it coming all the way down towards 172.6 as the next support. So we're going to be watching this very, very carefully to see if Apple could come down here where this wick is, which is where we formed a double bottom in the past. So if we lose 174, watch 172.6. If anything, I see a little pop and drop coming. I do anticipate more downside as the market's looking quite weak. Anyways, that's it for the main five. I'm now just going to quickly talk about a couple of others. Looking at SoFi to start us off, this is looking a little bit more bearish with a bearish daily candle. We're going to be watching this support down here at this 7.4 area. If we lose this, I see it coming down towards 714 or 7.14 to be more precise. I could see more downside, so watch it very carefully. The IWM looks a bit more bearish on the daily chart with a bearish cross on the PPO. If we lose 168, I could see this thing coming down towards this 167.5 support. If we lose that, 166.21 is coming. So watch 166.2 and then 167.5 if we do continue to sell off, which I believe we will, as it's looking more bearish. On Microsoft, this thing closed kind of flat, but it's looking a little bit more bearish on the daily. I see it coming down towards the support right here at 328. That's going to be a very good target. AMD is looking a bit more bearish. If you look at AMD, we're currently at 102. We basically popped, then dropped as time went on. So we popped towards the 200 EMA and rejected, and it is looking like it's going to be testing 101.5 very, very soon. If we lose that, watch 100 as key support, followed by 99 as another level. So I could see it coming down towards 100 if 101.5 breaks. I think we're going to be testing that for tomorrow as it looks a bit more bearish. The VIX managed to close above 20, which is another bearish signal, and the VIX is looking very strong right now. If you look at the daily on the VIX, very strong looking bullish candle, which tells me there's going to be likely be more upside for the VIX and downside for the stock market. The dollar index also closed kind of flat, but it's holding above its 20 EMA, and we have a possible inverse head and shoulders right here that could push this eventually higher towards 107. So that makes me lean a bit more bearish for the markets. Coinbase has a bearish looking daily candle. You can be watching it break below 73 to push down towards 72.1. If it loses that, watch 70.4 as key support if 72 breaks. So I am anticipating more downside for that. For Google, the daily looks a bit more bearish. I could see this coming down towards 138 flats, very close to our 20 EMA at 137.72. I'm anticipating a little bit more downside as we have a bearish crossover on the PPO potentially forming. Another thing that's bearish for the markets would be when Powell was speaking, the 10-year treasury yield has soared like crazy as crude oil and other things are also like correlated. They're also trying to push up. So with crude oil pushing up, with the 10-year treasury yield pushing up, that's another bearish signal. We have a daily candlestick that's bullish as it's about to break 50, or at least that 5% mark. So once again, guys, not the best of signs for the stock market. We're getting more bearish signals. Amazon to me looks like it has a head and shoulders like pattern. I'm going to actually pull this up on the daily. And when looking at Amazon, if this does make a full measured move down, I could see Amazon retesting 127.5. If we lose that, I see it coming down towards 126 very, very soon. So we're going to be watching the support at 127.5. If we lose it, 126 is coming. For Meta, I believe that this is looking a bit more bearish. The 4-hour time frame looks very bearish. Our 200 EMA happens to be around 307.5. I think Meta is going to test that. If we lose it, it's going to come all the way down towards 301. So I believe it's going to test 307.5. It looks a bit more bearish, and that's pretty much it for the video for now. SPX looks kind of weak, just like SPY. The daily candlestick is looking very weak. It looks like it's going to continue sinking. So I just wanted to call that out. With that said, guys, make sure you're prepared for what I'm saying. Please keep this as a warning going into tomorrow, as I am anticipating more downside as we have more sell signals and bearish looking technicals. So with that said, have a great day, have a good night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow in the morning during the pre-market. Please remain calm, cool, and collected. And once again, thank you so much, and peace out.